Good morning, children. This is grade 6 English, lesson 1. The shell falls apart from our English literature book. The shell falls apart is an excerpt from the novel Things Fall Apart by Chinua Achebe. Excerpt means a short story taken from the novel. This story was taken from the novel Things Fall Apart, which was written by Chinua Achebe. It opens with a description of a typical evening scene in Okonko's compound. Okonko is an Igbo leader and wrestling champion. The day's work is done and his wife Ekwifi is sharing songs and stories with the children. They had completed all the day's work and all the household chores, and now they were sitting and sharing stories and songs. She narrates to her daughter Ezima the delightful legend of the tortoise and the birds. Now she is telling a story to her daughter Ezima about the tortoise and the birds. And we can only hope that such folk stories will be preserved and will not be forgotten as the Igbo villages gradually become part of a new and different world. On a very dark, moonless night, Ezima and Ekwifi, Okonko's daughter and his wife, are sitting up right before bedtime. Before the bedtime, all the children and women were enjoying by telling their songs and stories. Okonko in his hut smokes tobacco and listens as in each of his wife's huts the women and children sing or tell stories. Ekwifi begins a story for Ezima. Now this is Ekwifi's turn to tell a story for Ezima. The story tells of a feast in the sky held for all of the birds. This story was about the tortoise and the birds. There was a feast in the sky, and all the birds should attend for the feast. Tortoise finds out about the feast and begins to figure out how to attend it since there is a famine going on and he is very hungry. So, famine means there is no food for a long time. So, the tortoise was very hungry because there was no food for a long time. From so many days, it was not eating anything. So, somehow it knew about the feast. And now the tortoise wanted to attend the feast along with the birds. Feast means a large meal. So many varieties of food will be provided in the feast. He asked the birds to help him attend the feast, but the birds are reluctant because tortoise is a trickster and is often scheming and ungrateful. So, what happened? This tortoise requested the birds to help him to attend the feast. But the birds knew about the tortoise. Why? Because the tortoise is a trickster. He is very cunning. He is very ungrateful. So they doesn't want to attend the tortoise for the feast. However, the tortoise says that he has changed and convinces the birds to help him. Somehow the tortoise requested and he told that I am changed now. I am a changed person now. So please allow me with you. And the birds convinced by listening to the tortoise's words. In order to help tortoise to fly to the feast, each bird gives him a feather. So now the tortoise was not having wings. So how can it fly in the sky? So all the birds, if each bird gave one feather to the tortoise. And with all those feathers, from these feathers, tortoise fashions two wings. Now with all those feathers, it made two wings and it attached to its body. After making the wings, tortoise flies to the feast with all of the birds. Like birds only, now the tortoise was also having two wings. So with the help of those two wings, it started flying in the sky along with the birds. Tortoise is so clever and happy that the birds decide that he would be the best one to speak for all of the birds. So the tortoise is so clever. what it said to the birds? See, I am a good traveler. I know about all the places. I know about the tradition and customs of all the places. So, after listening all these, the birds thought he is the best one to speak about the for all of the birds. So they decided to be their speaker and leader also. As tortoise flies along, he explains that it is custom when visiting their hosts to take a new name for the occasion. What the tortoise told the birds, see, whenever we go for a function or party, we have to take a new name. That is their custom. Where we are going now, their tradition is to take a new name whenever we go for an occasion. Since the birds believe tortoise to be well informed on different customs, they all take a new name. So what the birds thought, this tortoise knows everything. It traveled so many places. It knows about all the traditions and customs of all the places and people. So let us take a new name. So each bird took a new name. When they reach the feast, Tortoise gives a great speech and makes the birds happy for bringing him. So, after when they reached the feast, the tortoise gave a great speech. He spoke for so many hours and makes the birds happy for bringing him. The host believe him to be the king of the birds since he is the one speaking for them. So no birds are speaking. No bird is speaking here. Only the tortoise was speaking for so many hours. So what the host thought? Host thought that the tortoise was the king of the birds. The feast is filled with fresh yam dishes and hot soups. The feast is filled. They prepared so many dishes with fresh yam dishes with fish, meat, and they also made hot soups. However, before the birds can eat, tortoise asks the host who the meal is for. So now the tortoise very cunningly it asked the host, for whom you have prepared all this meal. They replied that it is for all of you. So what the host replied, generally if we go anywhere, the host will reply, come, please, all of you, have your food, like that. So here the host said, this is for all of you. Now, what happened? Here the tortoise kept his name as all of you. So, tortoise jumped at a time, once it jumped on the food and said, my name is all of you. So, I have to eat all this food. Tortoise tells the birds that this means that the food is only for him and eats almost all of it, leaving the birds hungry. So, when the host said like that, suddenly the tortoise jumped on the food and it started eating all the food without leaving anything for the birds. And now the birds are very hungry. Angry, the birds take their feathers back from the tortoise and fly home. So, while coming back home after eating the feast, they started going home. At that time, all the birds were very angry on the tortoise. Now, they all took their feathers back and fly home. Tortoise asked Parrot to tell Tortoise's wife to bring out blankets and pillows from the home so that the tortoise can safely jump down. So it requested all the birds to help him by sending a message to his wife. So all the birds rejected. They doesn't want to pass the message to his wife. But one parrot who was going at last, it came back and asked what I should tell your wife. Then what the tortoise said, see, you please tell my wife to bring out blankets, pillows from the house so that I can jump on the soft things safely and I won't get hurt. However, Parrot flies down to Tortoise's house and tells Tortoise's wife to bring out the hard things in the house. Why? Because this parrot was also angry on the tortoise. So, what it did to give a punishment to the tortoise, what it did, it went to tortoise's house and said his wife to bring all the hard things. Hard things means all the spears, spades, and all the hard things from the house. Okay, so he told his wife to bring all the hard things from his house. Tortoise sees his wife bring the objects out but jumps because he cannot tell that they are hard, and he cracks his shell when he lands. So, what happened? The tortoise was unable to see from the long distance from the sky what items were there in the compound of the house. So it started jumping. When it jumps, what happened? It fell down on the hard things, and the tortoise's shell was broken into pieces. So at that time, what the tortoise's wife did, she called the medicine man who was living nearby, and the medicine man treated the tortoise by sticking all the pieces of shell into a again it sticked all the pieces of shell, and again the tortoise's shell came back, but it was not smooth. This story explains why tortoises have cracked patterned shells. So the so